What do you think, Owen? Are we live?
The internet's a mystery. I have to ask my kids to come out here and tell me if we're live. I think we're live. So
I think we're live.
Who are you wearing an Artemis Fowl hat? Please introduce yourself.
I am a homeless person, as you can tell by the beard. So my name is Matt Wall. I am the head of Artemis Fowl Confidential, the world's largest Artemis Fowl fan site. And today I'm joined with Santa Claus, Eoin Colfer.
Oh, the nerve. I trimmed my beard especially. So I no longer do spirit work as Santa Claus. But yeah, I'm Eoin Colfer from Ireland, Dublin, in my little red room office. And I wrote the Artemis Fowl books, which are being released on Friday as a Disney movie, which is quite exciting. And I see, Matt, that you are wearing an Artemis Fowl movie hat, which I do not have. So I'm not sure how the internet works, but I believe that you take the hat off your head and pass it.
I'm rocking
it'll come out of my side. It'll come out of my side of the. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But before we go too far ahead, we're excited to be here live on Barnes & Noble's YouTube channel to talk about all things Artemis Fowl. I do believe Barnes & Noble have an exclusive version of this movie tie-in. I think it's got like a gold tinge to it, and I really want it, but they haven't sent me one. So, but before we start our proper chat, I think we're going to lead into a video where Owen will show you across Ireland, I do believe. I'm not sure if that's coming at some point. We've got like a whole team of people working in the back end.
Yeah, I remember doing that. It took a couple of days driving around with trying to pretend there was no one in my car except me.
Oh, here we go.
Wow, there you go.
I think we're back in the room.
Yeah,
you look great.
So there was a makeup girl, hair and makeup, and every now and then I would look sideways and I would just see her going, oh. She was using so much foundations on all my wrinkles that she was running out all the time. So
you've still got more hair than me.
Well, it's starting to turn into quarantine here now, but I'm hanging in there. But no, we had a lovely time, and we went to see all the places that inspired Artemis Fowl. I suppose the main one would be the Loftus Hall, which was Fowl Manor, where I worked as a young fella in the bar. So and that was the scariest house in Ireland. If you ever visit Wexford, you have to go down there and take the ghost tour.
I did actually visit Wexford a good few years ago, but I don't think I got there. I went to Hook. I went around the Hook Lighthouse, and
you were so close. Then you can actually see it from the Hook. But
I must have seen it.
I think you did, but my son Finn, and he played one of his jobs in secondary school was to play a ghost on the ghost tour, and you can imagine knowing his personality how much he enjoyed scaring tourists. So that was a nice time.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, that definitely strikes me as something Finn would do. So, guys, obviously put your comments in. Let's get some questions going for Mr. Colfer himself. I think we've got a few to get the creative juices flowing, Owen. Oh, that works. Yeah. But I think we'll start with a nice easy one. So, what was the spark for the Artemis Fowl series? What snapped it off?
Well, there's a few strands in the books, and I suppose the two main strands would be the character of Artemis Fowl, and the character of Holly Short, who is the fairy, and she's the hero of the series. So Artemis was it's an old story really, but I saw a photograph of my brother Donald making his first Holy Communion, and Donald was what we would call a rascal even then. He's graduated now to being a rogue, but back when he was a boy, he was a rascal. And I saw a photo of him wearing a full suit. He was only 10, but he was making his Holy Communion, so he had to have a full suit. But he had an impish smile on his face, and it occurred to me, this is years later, it occurred to me that he looked like a James Bond villain who was only 10 or 11, and I thought that's a great idea for a character. This megalomaniacal genius child who possibly has a couple of layers around the world, and he's only 10. And so I hung on to that for for a long time. For 20 years, I had this idea for this Bondy character. And then at the same time, I wanted to do a fairy story because Ireland is famous for our fairy stories. We love our fairy stories. But I didn't want to do the typical one because I felt they had been done brilliantly by everybody from Jim Fitzpatrick to Countess Markovich to even Oscar Wilde had a go. So they were all bases were covered in the traditional fairy world. So I thought what I would do is add something different. And what I found that I could add that kids loved was technology. They were all, when I was teaching, all these kids were on their Game Boys at that point, I suppose, and their massive big laptops that weighed about a stone. But they loved them, and so I gave the fairies technology. And once I had that idea, then I dropped in the little Bond villain guy, and it all just went from there. And that was 20 years ago, and it's still going.
I remember picking that book up back in 2001. Oh, I think internet. Is that Owen's internet being a bit slow? Oh,
Yeah.
Owen, are you
I'm
there?
getting a delay both ways, so I'm not sure what's going on. My internet is pretty good there, but yeah, I am. Do you want to keep talking for a minute and I'll refresh? I'll try and go back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just refresh here and see what happens.
So I think we've just lost Owen for a second there, but he should be rejoining us shortly. He's just doing a refresh now, and then we'll get right back in. But I'm afraid, guys, for now, you're stuck with me until Owen joins back in. Yeah, so Owen talking there about his inspiration for Artemis Fowl and, wanting to be able to put a new spin on it. Oh, I think he's back. I think we've got no audio from Owen now.
Mike is muted, so
hey, back in the room.
Back in the room. This is okay. Like, you'll have to be extra good and witty now, Matt, because we've.
I handled that pretty well.
You did really well. I mean, you're like so professional, and I'm here swearing, and trying to get my internet working. But I think we are good now. Okay.
I love how you were just talking about merging magic and technology, and then it all went.
We lost the magic and the technology. It's true though, because one of the concepts of the book is that all magic will eventually be explained, and there won't be any more magic. It'll all be science, and I suppose that's a very human thing, because as people always say, a few hundred years ago, people thought thunder and lightning were magic from the gods, and now we know, of course, that they are just science. So I think magic eventually will be explained, and they've made great strides in that in Artemis Fowl, that they've managed to put magic in batteries. They use it to run a lot of the city. They use it as a medical tool. So magic is being kind of industrialized, which I like. I like that idea. So they're trying to demystify it.
Absolutely. We've got a question from an Andy Davies. He says, you've recently returned to the Fowliverse, with Beckett and Miles. Do you think you'd ever give Artemis another adventure?
Andy, hello. I don't have any plans to give Artemis another adventure. He might make a cameo at the end when I get to the end of the Fowl twins. He might drop down from Mars and say hello. But I think really his arc is done. He went from being the bad guy to the hero, and effectively that's what I wanted him to do. So to go back and drag him in from another adventure, I don't know. It would have to be really good. I'd have to have a really good idea, a really strong idea, and then I'd have to have an idea to give that to him and not to let Miles and Beckett do it. So I don't know. We'll see. It's possible I'll think of something. Or we could do it maybe in another media. Maybe we could do it a graphic novel, like an original graphic novel or something like that, or a cartoon series. There's all sorts of possibilities, but a novel, I wouldn't think so. Not for a few years.
Yeah. So Artemis is. I know there's loads coming in, but so Artemis is thoroughly on his way to Mars and won't be dropping in until a potential finale.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Artemis was gone. I mean, I knew I'd be tempted. That's why I sent him to Mars. Just get rid of him, so he wouldn't be poking his way. Yeah, poking his way into the books.
So we've got a question from the book babe. Which was your favorite book to write and why?
Well, book babe. My favorite book for a long time was the first Fowl twins, which was very cleverly called the Fowl twins. I'd been out of the fairy universe for a long time, for 6 years, I think. And I thought I was done with it. And then I just had this idea for a book about these two odd little fellows. Quite a gothic book, very funny, quite scatological. And I didn't feel any pressure. I was just doing a little story for myself. And then it grew into this novel. And I just had so much fun doing it. And I really didn't have any intention doing it. I thought I was finished with those stories, but they weren't finished with me. So I really enjoyed doing the first Fowl, and hopefully when you read it, that comes across. I think often if a writer's really enjoying themselves, the reader can sense or can feel
absolutely, yeah.
Writing.
Because we've got a question from Seamus Redmond.
Oh, I thought, is there no screening of questions here? That's just
so it's a question for both of us apparently. What has the last year to 2 years been like diving back into the Fowlerverse with the Fowl twins and the I assume movie?
Well, do you want to take that one, Matt? You can. What do you think?
I mean, it's your creation, but I mean, it's been obviously it was dormant for a number of years. I think it was 2012. The Last Guardian came out, and it all kind of just went very, very quiet. And then there was sort of the rumblings of a movie, and there was the rumblings that you were working on a new Fowl Twins book, and then suddenly it just skyrocketed back into the public discourse, if you will.
I think when the first trailer came out, but that's quite a while back now.
A year and a half.
For me, when the first trailer came out, my phone started to ring from festivals a lot more, and I kind of not retired, but I'd stopped touring a little bit, and I wasn't really doing many festivals. But then as soon as the trailer came out, I'd say the next day, the phone started to ring, and then we did the Fowl Twins, and we had the book Illegal out at the time with Andrew and Gio. You know Andrew and Gio, and so we were already on tour for that. Yeah, we were on tour for that. Thank you. And so really, I've been quite busy ever since. And yesterday, I did 23 interviews. So I was like, that's my record for a day, and that was all, mostly television. So you're kind of.
Did your face hurt?
By the end of it, I was smiled at. But this is much better because I can see you, and it's like we're having a conversation. But when you're doing these satellite interviews, you're really trying to connect with people, and it can be quite difficult when you can't see them, and for some reason TV earphones are really bad. I mean, they should all just get earpods, it'd be fine. But these
Absolutely.
old plastic ones with the Secret Service things run down and you can't really
Yeah.
do anything. So,
Just
but
going
yeah,
back.
it's been great though.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just going back to illegal, because obviously that's it's a very powerful graphic novel that you and Gio and Andrew put together. And there's obviously rumblings now that you're working on a potential kind of spiritual sequel.
Yeah, it's a spiritual sequel. Andrew is a very conscientious guy. He's a very emotional guy, and I mean, I'm quite cynical, as you know, but Andrew is all heart. And when we finished the Artemis Fowl graphic novels, he wanted to do something original. And I remember we
Sure.
met in London to talk about it. I was over for a festival, and so I said, "Why don't we spend a day in the hotel and we just sit in the library and we will work out something." And everyone brings their A game, and we'll see what we pick. And I had like this amazing story. I thought this is my idea. It's about this girl whose dad was a superhero, blah blah blah. And I sketched out this thing, and then Andrew said, "Well, I've been following the stories in the newspapers about the migrants coming from North Africa and all the boats that go missing." And I said, "Okay, let's do that." So he really wanted to make a difference and reach
Yeah.
people with this news that wouldn't normally get the news. So people who read, like myself, who read graphic novels, it's possible I won't look at CNN that much. And
Yeah.
he said, well, there's a lot of people like you who will not look at CNN, but will read a graphic novel. So we decided that was a good channel for us to do. And so we did Illegal, which is, of course, is an ironic use of the term because migrants do not like to be called illegal. And there's a famous quote from a Holocaust survivor who says, you know, how can the human being be illegal? So that's what it's based on. It's the
Yeah.
story of this boy who comes from Ghana up through the Sahara. Like he's only 10 and gets to Libya and then gets on a boat to Italy. And it's quite a harrowing journey. But it's also, I think, a good adventure story because you need that if you want to keep people engaged. And
Absolutely.
our next project, which we're currently on chapter 4, and I'll show the artwork sometime. It's absolutely mind blowing from Geo, and it's called Global, and it's about global warming, but not just that, but the effect it has on children because it's always the
Okay.
kids who suffer, and it's the same with the migrants. It's always the
Yeah.
kids who don't unaccompanied minors who don't have anyone with them, and I think the way current political thinking is, you know, everyone is important. Black lives matter, all lives matter, and we need to start not just talking about this sometimes, but all the time. And
Needs to,
this certainly is. I think that immigration is certainly a subset of that.
yeah, it needs to become a bit much bigger part of the public discourse, I think, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So a question from Lily Fudge: how do you feel about the movie?
Hi, Lily. I feel great. I'm really happy. I hope it does really well. I had a great time. It's more than a movie for me because I got to know a lot of the people involved over the past 3 years, and many of them have become friends. So when I look at the movie, I don't just see what's on the screen. I kind of see through that to the 400 people who worked on it, and it reminds me of the day I brought my sons and my wife Jackie came. We went to the set, so it's almost like looking at holiday photos or a holiday video, a very glossy
Yeah.
holiday video, but it has a lot of memories associated with it. But yeah, so for not just for me, but for everybody else, I'd like the movie to do really well, and I'd really like people to go into it knowing that they're going to a movie. You know, they're not going to a book transcribed onto a screen. What you're
Yeah.
going to a movie, and you can like both. They're different, but you can like both.
Absolutely.
It's
It's
like I liked AC/DC with Bon Scott, and I also liked them with Brian Johnson. So you
it's a
can.
good.
I don't know if that's a great metaphor, but you
I
can have it.
I think there was a quote I read from you a little while ago that was you know, you thought that they could just take a book, remove the quote marks, and that's a movie. But it's, you know, it's a lot more difficult than that, isn't it?
Well, I suppose the biggest example is in the books. I don't really get into Artemis's motivations until the second book. So you kind of have an idea his dad's missing, but you don't really know why he is how he is. Uh, and that doesn't work in a movie because
Yeah.
studies that I read a study that said that people, the average time people will give on a streamer before they click off is like 40 seconds. So that's, you get 40 seconds. So sometimes people don't even go to the credits. You know,
Gee.
they just go, they see
And
Disney Castle, got nope. So Artemis has to be sympathetic first
mm,
before he's hard. In a movie, he has to be horror or nice first before he's horrible. Whereas in the book, he's just horrible for about 3 books, and then at
yeah,
the end of the third book, he gets a bit nice. But that just doesn't work in the movie, and I accept that. And I hope people are kind of open to that kind of change because sometimes that does cause a bit of friction with the readership.
yeah, 100%. So just pulling it back to the book side of things again, what does your writing process look like? Do you have kind of, I know you're in your kind of workspace now, but do you have any sort of
Yeah,
rituals, or, apart from sleeping for half the day and maybe doing like 10 minutes of writing here and there?
10 minutes, 7 minutes is my cutoff. No, I come out. Usually, I'm here. I'd say 7 or 8 hours a day. And if I ever start slacking, I've got David Bowie there. I'm trying. There he is, over my shoulder, keeping an eye on me. My little Bowie statue, and he's like my guardian angel. So I come out here. I try and go for a walk in the mornings, quite early, maybe 8 o'clock to 9:30. So I'm out here by 11 most days, and then I could stay here till 10 at night, really. But I love
Oh,
my
wow.
work, and I love being here, and I'm very lucky to have an office because
Yeah.
for many years I didn't have an office. I would find a corner in the house and work there. Originally in the baby's bedroom when Finn was a baby 21 years ago.
Finn was a baby
So when
once?
he was a baby, Finn was smaller than me once, man, if you can believe it. And now he's I'm looking up at him, you know. So when he had a tiny baby box bedroom, and when he was awake and out of the bedroom, I could have the room uh, to work. So to have an office to myself, I even have a little day bed or sofa, shall we say, which I like to call my my dream recliner. So I'm creating
Wow.
dreams. That's what I'm saying. Go away. I'm reclining in my dream recliner, but I'm actually having this. So if I'm
Just an
honest,
afternoon snooze.
but I'm lucky. I love work. It's yeah. So you got anything
Yeah, I
else?
think you're getting a little bit choppy again, but I think we'll be fine. So from
Okay.
Owen, from Mira Weber. Owen, do you think Miles and Beckett will get to explore fairy cities we haven't yet seen?
That is actually a very prescient question. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
definitely gonna have to have them find maybe a lost city or something like that. I haven't really planned it yet. It's not in the second book, but definitely in the third book. I want them to go deep and to find somewhere that even Artemis hasn't been before, because Beckett would just or Miles would just love that to get one up on Artemis. That's his dream, or Doctor Fowl as he calls him. To be he has a very he's a very bad case of sibling envy, sibling rivalry. So he wants to beat Artemis in everything. So yes, definitely Mira. Definitely there will be a new fairy enclave somewhere.
interesting. Who are some authors that kind of inspired you early on, sort of back, 20, 30 years ago when you
Well,
started writing?
well, I was a big reader. I mean, I don't know any writer really who's not a massive reader. So I love the big series, the bigger the better. And when I was in secondary school, believe
Mm.
it or not, I was not good at sports. So I was kind of a member of the more bookish group. And we had the
Okay.
fantasy books. Yeah, the fantasy books were our big thing. And because back then it wasn't really financially viable for one of us to buy all of the Lord of the Rings. Uh, so we would split it, and it'd be up to you to get hold of one book in whatever series you're reading, and
Mm.
then we would all get a chance to read the book. So that's actually it was a great way to make very close friends, very good friends, and also a magnificent way to discover literature. And like most people, I loved all the C.S. Lewis books. They really inspired me. I loved the Lord of the Rings books. I think the guys who I would have tried to emulate, and I still try, would be, Douglas Adams was a particular hero of mine and remains so, and Terry Pratchett, and later on, much later on, Neil Gaiman, who I think has produced some of the modern classics of the genre. But the first time I came across a book that I thought it's what I'm trying to get to, would be
Yeah.
the Princess Bride, which is not as popular over this side of the water as it is in the States, but it's still a magnificent book. And if you haven't read that, and I'm sure you have, Matt, but if you haven't read it, that is how to write a fantasy book. And what I absolutely adored about that was it was so funny too. So you didn't have to sacrifice the adventure for humor. You could manage to do both, which he also did in the movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, if any of the viewers out in internet land want to pick, I would say Princess Bride.
It's a pretty good shout. It's a pretty good shout. So from Malcolm Cooper to Owen, would Artemis Fowl become friends with Ian and Barely Lightfoot from Disney's Onward? Don't know if you've seen Disney's Onward yet.
That's Malcolm. Is going to be a very short answer. I have not seen Disney's Onward, but having said that, I have seen the trailer and I think I know who the two guys are. I'm going to say that they're Star-Lord and Spider-Man. I think that's correct. And if we can take them as Star-Lord and Spider-Man, absolutely. But I think Beckett would somehow or Miles would try to enslave them, and then Beckett would try and fight them. So it would be an interesting friendship. I'm sure Beckett would be a great addition to Guardians of the Galaxy. Himself and Rocket would get on.
Oh, they would, absolutely. Both small and overly violent. So a question from Maya, the Potterhead artist. Was there any characters that you thought of but never made it into the book or a book?
I do have a lot of characters that I think of, and sometimes I just think of names, and I never go any further than that. But there was a lot of, in the second Fowl Twins book, there's a lot of dwarves. Like there's a whole dwarf troop. I can't tell you much about them, but they're quite nefarious. And initially I had about 20 of those, but I just culled it down to 7 because I just thought seven dwarves is the perfect number. And I've used that before, the 7 dwarves trope, but I just think it's the perfect number of dwarves, and also it's easier to keep track of. I find it very difficult when I have too many characters to give them all separate personalities. They all start morphing into the same person.
Yeah.
So, but I don't any names or people that are not used get put into my file, and they will be used at some point when I need to plug a gap in the plot with a dwarf.
Awesome.
Which happens more often than you might think. You can never have too many dwarves in reserve.
On a similar tangent, I'm just going to duck in with a quick question that I've always had for you, Owen. What's the furthest you've actually got through writing something, whether it be a novel or, whatever, before just going, this doesn't work, and just tossing it out? Has that ever happened? Or
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's happened to me several times. And the last time was about 4 years ago, and I was doing a story about an Irish guy who moves to France and then gets involved in a murder mystery, and I thought it was great. And I got about 40,000 words in, which would be nearly half a novel. And eventually, I just realized the only person who's going to like this is me. And also, I don't know what's going to happen, and it just the joy went out of it. And when the joy goes out of it for me, that's a good sign that if I'm not enjoying it, no one else is going to enjoy it. So that was the last time that happened. But that has happened to me several times. But you just can't let it stop you. You have to just keep going, get on to the next project. The main thing is that eventually to write, the end, at the end of a novel, and don't just, things are going to go wrong, things are not going to work out, life is life. Something you thought was an amazing idea. It's like if you're painting your house, you're halfway through the sitting room and you just think, wow, that's a horrible color. What was I thinking? And the book is just that on a larger scale. You make mistakes all the time. Usually you can fix them and salvage it, but sometimes the best
It's
thing to do is cut it loose and start again. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can
Sad but
understand
true.
that. So a question from, I think it's Caviar Jane. What kind of advice would you give to aspiring authors?
Well, there's the main two that I think that everybody knows, and that is you need to read a lot, as much as you can, and you need to write a little bit every day. And I would add a third one to that, and that would be to observe. You need to have your eyes open for the human interaction that is going to be your inspiration for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Most of my inspiration came from the years of maybe 10 to 30. So you don't want to lock yourself away. I think there's this conception that you need to go into a dark room and stay there for a year. And I don't think that's true. I think you actually work better if you gather ideas out in the wide world. So make friends, go to parties, not at the moment, but when you can go again. Go to gigs. Music is inspires me massively, and live music even more so. Meet friends, get into a book group with like-minded people. It's very inspiring if there's another person writing a book. That was going to make you work hard if your friend is on chapter 7 and you're on page 2. And at the end of the day, it is inspiration, but there's a lot of work involved. There's a lot of just being at your desk and we're doing your 1,000 words a day. That has to be done too. And I mean, you might end up throwing away most of those words, but you learn something every time. So
Yeah, it's all practice, isn't
read,
it?
write, watch. Yeah.
Awesome. I think I've just, yeah, there we go. So a question from Latte. I could do with a latte right now if any, there's no one here, but yeah. What are projects you've enjoyed working on outside of the Fowlerverse?
Well, that's a great question, Latte. One of the great advantages of having done the Artemis Fowl books that have been quite popular is that I can call up people and see if they want to collaborate. So I've worked with people like PJ Lynch, who's a wonderful Irish artist, and we won we won a lovely award with that book, the Dog Who Lost His Bark with Walker Books, and then Oliver Jeffers, the world famous Belfast author and artist. We did a book together, Imaginary Fred. But I would say my first love is theatre. And I started doing plays, and I'm still doing plays. And I did a musical a couple of years ago. I wrote the book for the musical, and then a long-time colleague and collaborator, Liam Bates, composed the music. And my childhood friend, Michael Landra, produced it in North America with his colleague Steve Peters, and it was called Noel, and it was a Christmas musical about a girl who was basically trying to find her mom at Christmas, and it was about the homeless problem in London. So it was set in a park that's full of homeless people. So that meant a lot to all of us, and it's a problem that's not unfortunately getting any better. Although one of the side effects of COVID is that people really can't be on the street, so we have a little bit of a temporary respite, not much, but a little.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that, watching people learn how to sing the songs, do the dances, build the sets. It's just such a multi-sensory experience.
Absolutely. I'm just having a look through the questions now. Another question from Book Babe, actually. Did you know that Artemis Fowl would be as popular as it has become? Or did you know it would become as popular?
No, I really thought that it would be one and done, as they say. That I thought this was a quirky little book about a naughty child that nobody would, maybe a few people like myself who enjoyed the naughty characters in books, or the bad guys. So when I was younger, I loved the Sheriff of Nottingham and Robin Hood. He was my favorite. I don't know what that says about me. I loved Captain Hook in Peter Pan. I thought he was great. I loved the Pirate Queen. I didn't like the soldiers who were trying to catch the Pirate Queen. So I thought, well, why don't I just write a whole book about one of these characters instead of them being a secondary character? And that's what Artemis was. But I had no idea that it would be any more than just one little adventure book. And so when it started to sell around the world, I was absolutely astonished. And when the publishers wanted more, I was really astonished. But I'm still astonished, to be honest. I'm still surprised any of this has happened, and every year it just keeps going. Even though, as you say, it's been what was it, 2000? When was the last Guardian? Was it 2012 or
2012, I think it
2013?
was 2011, 2012.
So it's like 8 years since the last Artemis book came out, and they're still going. So there's a new set of graphic novels coming out now. So it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think you can just about see the cover of one there. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah.
There's the making of book, and there's Andrew Donkin's Guide to the World of Fairies.
Only Andrew Donkin could have written that, because he just knows the world so well. But because we've been friends for so long, I think we bonded because we have similar senses of humor. The first time we met, and we've been like giggling at each like two schoolboys ever since. So that book is so good. It's what I really liked about it is he didn't just write a guide; he wove a story into it. So it's from the point of view of Mulch Diggins, and that so you're not just getting a guide; you're getting laughs, and you're getting a bit of a narrative too. So and I love the artwork; it's phenomenal.
So, a question from Punzelberry. Did you have any idea of where you wanted to go with the story from the very beginning? Are there any stories endings that never made it in the Fowl universe that you could share with us?
Well, Punzelberry, is that a real berry, a Punzelberry? I've never heard of that. It sounds fantastic, but no, I didn't know. I just planned the next book that I'm writing, and even that I wouldn't have it very comprehensively planned. I know J.K. Rowling famously had the last chapter of the last Harry Potter book, and she wrote it very early on, and she put it in a safe and in an envelope. But I'm really not that organized. I wish I was. But I remember at one point I was going to have Artemis and Holly like linked romantically, and that was going to end up that they were like together as a couple, and I just felt this is a betrayal of everything I've been doing in the books. The whole thing is that it's not about romance. So when it came to that point in the book, I think it was the time paradox, and I thought there would, because there was an age difference, like he was a child, and it was just getting too creepy. So I just made it a comedic scene, and I kind of wimped out of that. So I think I made the right decision, that they would just be great friends, but there would not be some kind of forced romance that would fit into some trope that someone invented. So no, so I'm glad I Pumpsleberry, I think I did the right thing there, but I will never show anyone. I think somewhere in a notebook there must be that scene somewhere, where they realize that, oh my goodness, all this time, Artemis, I have loved you, and he'd be like, really?
I think
even thinking about that is cringy, isn't it? So
there is a portion of the Artemis Fowl community that do quite like that idea, and I think they're probably watching
fan fiction, apparently.
Yeah, apparently so. But
and I think,
they're probably collectively losing their minds right now.
Yeah, I have a weakness when it comes to. There's not much romance in any of my books, and food. It's hardly, no one eats anything. I remember reading Enid Blyton books as a child, and all these fantastic slap-up meals, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. But I just forget to write them. I forget to write them, and I think that's a bit like me. If I'm at my office, I just forget to eat. So I'm just not really interested. But so no food and no romance. Sorry, people.
Oh dear. So I've just another little reminder. Look, I just wanted to show everyone again. Really, there's actual pictures inside the middle of it as well. I'm just open. Look.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a version of this that I really desperately want. But it's they've Barnes and Noble have done like a gold leafed edition, and I really want it. I mean, can you pull some strings and get me a copy?
I don't have one. And I don't have a hat, so I'm getting the longer this talk goes on, the more irate I'm becoming. So so I don't have any of these things. All I have is me and my little David Bowie statue, and I do have a pop toy there, whatever they're called.
I want one of those. You've got that, and I don't.
So that's the only thing I have that you don't.
Yeah.
So
a question.
You can start sending me stuff.
I will have to. Yeah. So we got a question from Ashley McFarland. Are you in the Artemis Fowl movie? And if not, do you wish you could be? See, I know the answer to this.
Yeah. Actually, it's hard to answer this question. Honestly, actually, we filmed a couple of things, and there was a technical problem, and the technical problem was I was terrible. So bad. They could literally have gotten, a frog, and he would have had more emotional range than me. So we had to come up with something, or Kenneth Branagh. Every now and then I would glance over at Kenneth Branagh, and he would just be going, oh dear. So, because he's such a kind person, I think he didn't want to tell me how bad I was. So we had to think of another way to get me in the movie that I wouldn't really have to act. And Matt, was that achieved, Matt? Would you think?
I think it very much was achieved. Yes. You exist within the movie. I think that's a.
Yeah, you'd have to pay attention.
Yeah, he's a tiny gnome.
Definitely.
I'm joking. I'm really joking. You got to.
Actually, you do laugh, but that's the ideal part. If they do get a sequel or whatever, I want to be a gnome or a goblin, and just be covered in latex, and not have to do anything. Just stand in the prison, and
look
get blown up or something like that. Yeah. So I did say that to Sean. I said I just want to get a big latexy goblin head, and he said, Dad, you don't really need the latex. So that was very kind of him.
That's a bit harsh.
That's what kids are like for you.
Yeah. On the subject,
I'm sorry, Ashley. That's not a great answer. Yeah.
On the subject of merch, so we're over on Artemis Fowl Confidential. We are currently running a giveaway in association with Disney Books to win some. See, they'll brand anything now. This is a torch. Do you want a torch?
Have that? I'd love a torch. Can I enter this competition?
I can't see why not. I think we might get a few complaints if you were to win, but
yeah. So what does a person have to do on Artemis Fowl Confidential to just go to is it the Facebook page or Twitter or just your main website? Yeah,
just the main website, and they can. There's lots of ways to enter over on the main website, and also included is a copy of the tie-in edition.
Nice.
And Andrew's book, funnily enough, as well.
Oh yeah,
So a question from Paula: where would Minerva be now? What do you picture her doing? So that was obviously another potential romantic relationship you had planned potentially.
Yeah, Minerva. I've had to kind of be so many people. Hi, Paula. I think I recognize your photo from Instagram. A lot of people ask me about Minerva because I just very callously, when I was finished with her in our story arc, I just dropped her. I just never mentioned her again. So I had to invent a backstory, and this is what happened. And I know Minerva doesn't come out of this well, but Artemis and Minerva, after the events of the Lost Colony, went to the Nobel Prize ceremony in Scandinavia, and Minerva met a skier and realized that she wanted to study the mechanics of skiing purely as an exercise. And Artemis then got insanely jealous, and they sort of split up, even though they weren't really together, but they fell out a little bit. But I do feel that Minerva is the character I would like to bring back, Paola, and I always really liked her. And she was kind of the opposite. She was equal and opposite to Artemis in that they really had a good tug of war for a while. So yeah, she's a great character. She's the only character I feel bad about dropping. And I've killed characters, as we all know. But Minerva was kind of unjustly handled. So I would like to make that right at some point.
I'm just looking through the I'm just looking through the public comments. There's been some people don't like my use of the word torch. because
Oh,
apparently in
torch?
America it's flashlight.
Oh, flashlight.
Do you say torch or flashlight in Ireland, Owen?
I would say torch. I would say torch. Yeah, I would drop my torch on the pavement, and as opposed to my flashlight on the sidewalk. So it's
Yeah.
I don't know how we're ever going to bridge that gap.
I think we probably just angered like half the audience instantly.
I know, and then I'd say bathroom instead of restroom. That's another one. So
Oh dear. I just called it the toilet.
yeah.
But again, I know Americans don't particularly like that.
Let me give you a little hint about that. If someone asks you where your friend is, do not say in the toilet, because if you say they're in the toilet in America, they will call emergency services because they think someone is jammed in the toilet.
Down a U-bend.
Down the U-bend.
This derailed very quickly, didn't it?
I know. We better get back to the real question.
Just seeing, okay, I think the comments now look like they've just descended into ripping us the flashlight.
I know.
I think
we get flashlights, and someone says, "You Irish folk." People think you're Irish, man. You should explain that you are not.
I mean, I am a red-headed, bearded male, but unfortunately, I'm not an Irishman in that sense of the word.
Matt is English. Me and Matt have done more for Anglo-Irish relations, I think, possibly since the Good Friday Agreement. It's them and then us, so we're very powerful. We've brought people together.
Power. Oh, we got another question from Ashley McFarland. Who is your favorite character in Artemis Fowl, Owen?
That kind of revolves. I think I have a favorite comedy character, and then I would have a favorite, I suppose, hero character. And my comedy character would have to be Mulch Diggums. I think he is like, you just drop him into any situation, and he's comedy chaos, and I absolutely love him. And his powers got more elaborate with every single book. But for a serious, dramatic hero, Holly, it has to be Holly for me. She's the person I most enjoyed writing, and I think I took extra care with her because I wanted to have a little bit of depth. And it's easier for me to write boys, I suppose, because I used to be a boy many decades ago. But when you're trying to write from another perspective, you want to take more care with it so that you get it right, so that it's not like a paper character or a pastiche, so that it comes across as a real character. And so I was lucky that I was teaching at the time, 12-year-olds, so I was in contact with that age group all the time, and so it was easy to build up layers of personality from those contacts. So yeah, I really like Holly, and yeah, I really love it when I get letters from girls, in school who are grown up now with their own kids and who say they loved Holly when they were in school, and it was great to see someone succeeding in her workplace, even if it was a bit, the odds were stacked against her. So Holly and Mulch, Ashley. I hope that's a better answer than the last one I gave you.
Yeah, I'm modelling myself after Mulch these days, as you can tell. I'm just going for that dirty homeless look.
We have one here from Seamus, I see, and Seamus says, "Owen, will you run for president so we can use the slogan #Time to Believe?" I don't know. I think the president. I'm tempted. I think the president. We're very lucky. We have a fantastic president in Ireland now, Michael D. Higgins, and he's a real poet. So we're really lucky to have him. But so I appreciate the vote, Seamus, but I'm going to retire. I think take it easy for a while. Go to a beach somewhere, not in Ireland because you'd.
I was going to say. And I think we've got time for one more question. I think we've got one more from Mira. Can Owen speak about the Irish pride you portray so often in your books?
Hi, Mira. I'm very proud of being Irish. I think not in a nationalistic way, but just a love of the people and the place. And everywhere you go in Ireland, it does seem to adhere to the cliche that it's a very welcoming country. I mean, we do have our difficulties like every other country, and hopefully we can work on them. But in general, I think if you come to Ireland, you'll be met with a welcome There'll be a candle in the window for you, and it's just a beautiful place. And it's the land of my parents and my grandparents and my forefathers, and it's very hard to shake off that kind of legacy. And one of the real things I love about Ireland is that we treasure our artists. So artists are seen as, the very top of end of society for the riches that they bestow on the people in general. And in olden days, the storytellers would travel around to the villages, and they lived the life of rock stars, we're told. They were just exalted people. We're not quite so exalted now, but still, if you're in a small town, everybody will be working on a novel. Most people will be in a drama group or a light opera society. And if there's an opera in town, everybody goes to see that. So it's artists and art is really prized here. My own sister-in-law won the very well-known Cosgrove Art Prize there last year, Helen. And it's just normal for us. And everyone's family has an artist in it. So I think that's the thing I love the most about the Irish people and the Irish society.
And I think that's probably a really, really nice way to end, wouldn't you say?
Oh, well, I think so. Yeah. As usual, Matt, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And thanks for all the amazing work you've been doing for the last 200 years on the Artemis Fowl.
I know I look old, but
not as old as me.
Yeah, I just like to remind.
How many pages has that site got now? It's got like thousands of pages. I don't even know.
I dread to think. I really do dread to. I'll have to count it at some point. But I'd just like to remind everyone viewing that the Artemis Fowl books are available 24/7 at barnesandnoble.com, including. This is not the exclusive Barnes & Noble edition. Once again, Barnes & Noble need to send Owen and I copies of this, don't they, Owen?
They do. Mostly you, though, because I feel you're angry.
I need every version of Artemis Fowl ever. So yeah, there is an exclusive movie tie-in available at Barnes & Noble. And yeah, thanks so much for your time, Owen. It has been an absolute pleasure as usual. I'm sure we'll catch up again very soon.
No, me too. Thanks, man. I'm sure we will. And I know you're interviewing some of the movie stars next week. So go gentle on them. Go easy.